Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Coin Drop Podcast, episode number 67, coming to you live from PAX area. Obviously, I'm not at PAX for those of you watching. It's obviously, yeah. It's also clearly a living room behind me. So, for those of you watching, however, I am in Seattle, just south of PAX. I've been there for most of the day today, was there yesterday, and boy, do we have a lot to discuss with you guys tonight. A fucking lot. So this is going to be a chonker of an episode, and it's going to cost me a pretty penny to put up, but hey, it is worth it, let me tell you. First off, over here dying to my left, Tim, you're feeling hot and cold over there, huh, buddy?
I've been up and down all day. Sometimes I've been feeling decent. Other times I've been shaking uncontrollable. So right now I'm sweating.
That sucks. Sorry to hear it. But the good news is you won't have to talk too much other than to ask questions, interject, and stuff like that. And I'll handle the majority of this. We've got a lot of big topics to talk about tonight. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. But before we do, I'm actually going to do this right this time. Don't forget we have a Patreon. Patreon.com/CoinDropPod. Find us there. Get extra content, support the show, help us continue to make this show, help us to be able to give giveaways to our fan base. I firmly believe if we want to change the gaming community, we have to work for it. And I want to see the gaming community be more involved, more friendly to each other in general, and more supportive of each other. So the more you guys support us, the more we can give back to you. If anyone listening actually used my business cards I gave out today, thank you. Let me know in the comics that's how you got here, because that'd be cool to know that somebody followed that QR code. I did make a mistake while I was handing those out today, that it was a phrasing thing. It's nothing wrong with the card, but there were a couple I gave out, and I said, hey, thanks, enjoy the con. And I very quickly was like, ooh, that's probably not what I want to say, handing out a business card with a QR code on it. That's a double entendre, and I do not mean it that way at all. So that was, I very quickly stopped saying that. Like, obviously, if you don't think about it, you're like, yeah, it's a convention, con, whatever. But like, the situation made it a little bit more like, maybe not say that. Anyways, speaking of things that's not to say, I don't know. I tried. It's the best segue I could come up with. Chris is over here shaking his head at me, laughing at me. That's pretty normal. Let's talk about The Occultist. So, Tim, you and I saw this game, and I think we talked about it exclusively on Patreon a couple weeks ago. I don't remember if it was on the free side or not.
Man, I couldn't tell you at this point.
Yeah.
I don't feel well enough to think strong enough.
Anyways, a couple of other games by Daedalic Entertainment, which I will get into probably later or next time, because one of them I didn't enjoy, the other one I didn't get to play. Did get to play The Occultist, and it's pretty good, honestly. It's actually like,
it's good.
It's not AAA.
What we're looking forward to.
Yeah, it's not AAA by any means. Graphically, it's actually like atmospherically. It started with like going on a boat to the island and then walking through this like dark forest that was like, if Until Dawn was set in like a non-snowy environment, right? Like it's this dark, oppressive forest, and it's just beautifully designed. Graphically, very, very good. Definitely making use of UE5's best features. It was a slow burn of horror. It reminded me, so like the best I can say is if Resident Evil 1 setting with Resident Evil 8 perspective and graphic fidelity, right? So like it has that puzzle solving, slow building horror of Resident Evil 1 mixed with the perspective and the first person camera of Resident Evil 8, if that makes sense.
Interesting.
Now, I wish we had talked about this on the free side. Again, I don't remember if we do, but I actually kind of called this game. I talked to the dev while I was there. I was like, was your intention, or do you guys intend to release this game with VR support? And she actually told me, yes, they had actually intended on making it a VR game where you actually pulled up the little pendant to your head. And she was like, it was so cool the way it operated, the way it worked. It was this really cool feature to do in VR, but they didn't have the funding to continue to develop it in VR at the time.
Yeah,
so it got pushed to a first-person perspective game, though they are hopeful if it sells well, perhaps a sequel or a port might come to VR. So,
Yeah.
being that it is on UE5, there is the possibility there for VR support. It was by no means a perfect game. Just to be clear, there was texture popping here and there. There was mesh overlaying, what you expect from a game in early alpha, honestly. Like it's an early development game. But it was fun. It was enjoyable. The puzzles were complex enough to make you think, but easy enough to quickly solve, if that makes sense. They
So like a game, like an action game that has puzzles in it, so they're usually not like crazy, but enough to kind of like what you just said.
Yeah,
more or less.
enough to get you to go like, oh, okay, well, I've got this. How do I do that? Where do I use this? Interactions were pretty basic, pretty standard, run of the mill, nothing to write home about. But it felt good for the setting. It kind of, I don't know, it all meshed very well together. The one thing that I'm having a hard time with is the voice actor. And I don't know if it's direction. I don't know if it's the actor himself, but he's very flat. He's very monotone through like the whole thing, even being chased by like a ghost deer, which he is like, oh, I usually prefer open invites instead of being chased through the woods by Bambi's older brother or whatever he says. It's something along those lines. But
It's just like monotone during that.
it's just very flat. And
Weird.
it's I feel like they're stuck between a rock and a hard place with that. So I'm cutting them some slack because you're supposed to be playing a person who has been an occultist for a long time, and this is their chosen career path. So they've kind of been there, seen that is the understanding. So it wouldn't make for a good game for him to be this high level occultist guy who's always terrified of everything that comes his way, right? Like it doesn't really mesh, but it's also, it almost feels like it's gone too far the other direction of where he's so just like over it that he's just like another fucking Tuesday. Like, so it's a hard balance for sure, I would say. But overall the game is good.
I mean, he might be, an occultist and he deals with ghosts and shit like that all the time. But like you said, to basically be totally monotone about it, especially when you're being chased by some fucking poltergeist that's trying to kill you, like,
Yeah. It's an interesting choice. I'm not opposed to it, but it didn't take me out of the game, right? Some voice acting will just be like, it rips you out of the game, you're done. It just kind of breaks the immersion. His didn't really. But it was definitely it took a little bit of getting used to. So I don't know. It's an interesting choice for direction or for the voice actor himself. I don't know where that decision was made, but it doesn't take away from the fun of the game. You don't fight back. You do pretty much just have to run or sneak around the ghosts, get around them. It doesn't, as of what I've played at PAX, seem like there's a way to fight back. So I did catch, I actually helped the developer out. She was very nice. The game is made by a team in Spain, and there's a translation error in the demo. They refer to a rake as a pitchfork. They refer to a pitchfork as a rake. And I went to pick it up, and they're like, oh, yeah, a rake. And I was like, that's definitely not a rake. So I informed her, I was like, I think there's maybe a translation error, and she was very receptive to that. It was very cool. She appreciated the feedback.
That's good.
Incredibly nice developer. I didn't catch her name. I'm sorry if you're listening to this or watching this or however you might be joining us. It was a pleasure. And she offered us potentially a review copy. So that could be kind of cool. We'll see. We'll see what happens with that.
I hope them naming a pitchfork or rake isn't indicative of anything more, serious, but it's probably just something like a simple oversight.
Yeah. Again, it's a Spanish developer, so I think it was just a case where the QA, whoever they have running QA for translation, just caught the wrong word. So she was very happy to hear that.
Simple oversight.
Yeah, but pretty harmless. The rest of the game was literally like, didn't see any issues. I played it like a much longer section of it than I expected to. I want to say I played a good 30 minutes or so of it. I felt like every time I was like, oh, okay, the demo's going to end. Oh no, it's still going. Okay, let's continue. So it was a good amount of gameplay, but it had a really good, there were a couple of jump scares. There was a couple, this or that, but it just built tension really well with the ability to see the past through the pendulum and see oh, there was a fucking nasty blood trail here and now it's gone. Weird. So it was kind of cool the way they did that. I almost feel like they did this on purpose, but I don't know. The ghosts kind of glitch in a really creepy way. Like,
Are they supposed to?
I don't know, but it adds a level to it that feels very unsettling. Like it doesn't, they don't like clip through the floor or anything like that. But there was one situation where the ghost like is crawling across the floor and her like lower half is like glitching, not like glitching. It's hard to explain. You'd have to see it.
It's like it could be a bug, but it also could potentially not be, and because of that, it adds I don't know, atmosphere.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Unsettling. Yeah, unsettling feeling.
Yeah. So overall, I enjoyed it. This is a game that if we don't get a review copy for, which I'm not expecting by any means, I'll probably buy and play because it's enjoyable to say the least. Depending on the price point, I don't know that I'd pay $60 for it, but like 40, I'd pay 40 for it. So, yeah, you have to go and do like an investigation kind of thing. So the situation was something happened at this farmhouse and this just minor investigation I was doing in the beginning of this game. And in order to get into the basement to find this ghost, to like allow this ghost to the afterlife, I had to find out what her name was by like investigating the house. Found out her name, went to the basement door, and then you actually have to remember the name. The game doesn't just open the door for you. It pops up a little thing where you have to select the letters of the character's name and actually put it in. So
does it give you the option for like a hint if you found the name or no?
Yeah, you can go back and look at the items where you found that were important to the story.
That's very reminiscent of old school Resident Evil.
Yeah,
you had to look at the item.
Yeah, I had to do that a couple of times, so that was really cool. And I lost my train of thought. Oh, the controls I think were the only thing that kind of didn't sit well with me. It feels like it was very clearly designed for a controller and then given PC controls, so kind of backwards. But with a controller, I feel like this game would play phenomenal. I'll probably still end up playing with mouse and keyboard, but the controls on the mouse and keyboard felt a little bit off, in my opinion. Some people might think it's perfectly fine. So, I don't know.
Yeah. Depends. You don't really play with a controller anymore these days, so.
Game to game, it depends. Like I play Monster Hunter with a controller. I don't play that on mouse and keyboard. So it depends on the game. But speaking of depending on the game, I'm trying here, man. It's been a long day. Don't try. God Save Birmingham was also there. And I want to give a quick shout out to the team at Ocean Drive Studios for giving me an opportunity to play the game and having a chat with me about this game. This just recently got shown off. We talked about it very recently. This is the medieval zombie survival game that takes place in Birmingham in the medieval ages. The developer of this game was inspired by two largely successful, one incredibly successful game. He basically considers this a mix between Kingdom Come Deliverance, because he's a huge fan of that game.
Instantly, that's my interest.
And Project Zomboid.
It's one I've never played.
So Project Zomboid's actually really good. I played it when it was new, and it got suddenly incredibly popular a while ago, randomly. It's a very good game. It's the Sims zombie apocalypse, basically, is what it is. It's a very fun game. It's a little bit more deep than that. They've made a lot of changes to it. But I remember one of the very first things I was able to do was I got infected in that game, and I went under the sink and drank bleach and killed myself. So, like, you can 10 out of 10 like drank bleach and just let it end. So it's inspired by that. The scope of the game, they're very, very early in development. So what I played was definitely not polished by any means. It was very, very, very early. A lot of what you'd expect from an early game, right? A lot of texture popping, clipping, physics issues with zombies, the normal stuff that you'd expect in a game in development, right? But the core of the game was interesting enough and pretty fun, honestly. Like, it was very simple, but it was a lot of fun. Basically, what was playable there was grab your pitchfork, eat some food, drink some water, run around and kill zombies and gather more food and water. So it's very early in development. I think they said they've been working on it for about 5 months. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
I could be wrong. I talked to a lot of developers, so cut me some slack. But
did they say if it's going to be an early access game?
it is. They are planning to launch early access next year. That's the goal. But they do have a lot of ambitious goals to get there, right? So they want to be feature complete by the time they launch into early access. There's plans to make it co-op, so co-op will be optional. You'll be able to craft food to the point where you actually, like, to make recipes, you need to go get salt, you need to go get pepper, you need to go get eggs, you need to go, like, you have to actually get all of the ingredients. I don't know if there's going to be building mechanics. I don't think there is. It suggests that there's going to be, the game itself suggests that there's going to be the ability to use ladders and things like that, because there's a ton of ladders that you just can't interact with right now. The goal is to, what they're actually doing is trying to literally recreate Birmingham from the medieval ages to scale, to population scale. So they said, I believe they were planning multiple endings, and how you got there would change the ending. So, like, if you decided to just slaughter everybody, right, and kill every single person in Birmingham, which would be an insane feat because it would be like the real population, that's an option. So there's and it would take you forever because you could only kill so many per day and this and that. But they have a lot of ambitious goals for this. I think this could be a really cool, kind of unique game for the zombies genre. Honestly, the potential is there to do some really cool stuff with this that we haven't seen in anything. The only other game I can think of that's anywhere remotely like this is a game that's so far in early development. There's one trailer for it called Blight. It is also a medieval zombie game, much more like you're a knight and killing zombies than a peasant trying to survive the zombies. But that's the only game I can think of besides this one that's kind of set in this style of setting. So pretty cool. It's one to definitely keep your eye on. The horde mechanics. So at the end, my time was about to run out. It was a time trial. I wanted to see what happened if I got swarmed by zombies, and it was gruesome. Like, so if you get grabbed by one, you can generally shake them off, but if, like, you get grabbed by multiple, they start biting you, and more keep coming to bite you. I had at one point, like, all of my upper body had someone's head attached to it trying to eat me. So if they do, like, dismemberment mechanics, there could be some pretty gruesome deaths in this game. So nice. Yeah, very, very cool. Again, very, very early in development. I'm interested. Their goal, like I said, it seems ambitious to build as accurate as possible historic city, but it's kind of cool. I'm curious to see how the leveling mechanics work, how it is, because with Project Zomboid, you get, like, better at stuff as you go. You can learn new skills and things like that. And they alluded to crafting, as you can see, is putting on armor and such here. So yeah, there's.
I mean, it sounds like they're trying to make it really deep.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a survival game, so obviously it's going to be building and crafting and stuff, but there's a solid armor system. Like you mentioned, it's going to be the size of actual Birmingham. Like, they're really trying to go all out for this game, which is kind of crazy that they've only been working on it for 6-ish months or so, which we might not be true, might not be accurate. And they're up already. Yeah. And I guess maybe, I don't know. I mean, if that's the case, almost it might be a little concerning because, like, maybe they're using a lot of middleware, which I guess isn't necessarily a bad thing. No. But
I think I don't know for sure. I didn't ask. I was pretty sure this one was built on UE5 too, so that does a lot of the heavy lifting with assets and things like that. So, you know, I don't care about what's in the game so much as how fun it is, if that makes sense, right?
It's good.
Yeah, as long as it's enjoyable and it plays well.
Yeah, pretty much.
Now, let's take a trip down some nostalgia and talk about another game, which is one of my favorites that was shown off at PAX, honestly. As far as, like, indies I was unaware of. This is War of the Western Deep. That's not what you're... Okay. Well, this was War of the Western Deep. That's Kingdom Come Deliverance too. We'll get to it. I fucked up the slide.
These.
Yep. Let me just go ahead and remove.
Should we just... Yeah,
I'll just jump to the general. War of the Western Deep. wish I had the video for you here. It is what caught me immediately walking through PAX Friday, because we scoped it out Friday to kind of get a plan of what we wanted to look at. It is animated in a style that is very much like Disney's Robin Hood, the old, the old cartoon.
You're on one where he's a fox.
Yep. And it looks fantastic. The inspiration behind it in terms of gameplay is much like Dragon Slayer. If you aren't familiar with Dragon Slayer, that's okay. It's a very old game. I don't blame you. It was an arcade adventure game, which was more or less a scene selector, right? You had to choose the right sequence of events to get through to get to the end of the game. It was designed to eat young children's money and make a shit ton of money for whoever owned the cabinet, because god damn it, it's impossible. So the gameplay is similar to that, but it also has a little bit of combat, not a ton, because they wanted to keep to the adventure title or genre, right? Because once you start adding actual like big combat, then you get into the action adventure, right? So their focus is just the adventure side of stuff, storytelling, that kind of stuff. But there is a combat system in it. There is minor fights in it, where it's a dodge counter based combat, to where you're on one side of the screen, not quite fighter-esque, but like maybe a canted fighter. So like one character's set further back in the scene than the other, but they're like facing each other, right? Again, I wish I had the fucking footage here. I can probably, I don't know. Let me just.
Yeah. So the game, like you said, they're slanted and it's kind of at an angle, but basically you have to read the enemy's attacks and you have to dodge appropriately or block appropriately. It seems to me a directional based one, so it's gonna be left, up, and right. I would assume there's a back too, but not always. In any case, yeah, there it is. You got it up.
There we go.
Although it's got the wrong name, but it's all good.
Look, I just threw it over God Save Birmingham. Let's just it's fine. This is the best I could do. I'm sorry. I'm totally professional at this. So this is the game. It's an adventure game where, if I remember correctly, trying to remember the exact story beat for beat is difficult, but you're a courier that is going from one kingdom to another with a letter for that king, and then as soon as you get there, war's declared, so you're locked in this kingdom, and the game starts with you trying to find a way out. Come to find that like the people around you are in a bad way, so you transition from trying to get yourself out to trying to defend these people and becoming kind of this reluctant hero kind of thing, was the gist of what I caught. Again, it's mostly a point and click adventure. You click stuff, interact with it, harvest it, take it somewhere, do something, and then there's some combat involved as well. But what sold me is this man listed the art style of Disney's Robin Hood, the play style of Dragon Slayer, the blending of story of the I guess animal anthropomorphic style of
step away for a second.
Yep, of Redwall with Game of Thrones. So kind of a crazy genre shift there, but he said it's a more mature game, but it fits somewhere in there, right? Like it's cutesy enough, I guess would be the right term. It's child friendly enough that like kids could watch it and play it, or watch someone play it. But the content it's also a pretty dark story from what he said. How dark, I don't know. I don't know how far deep it goes. But the interesting thing about this is it's actually also a web comic. So War of the fuck. I suck at this. I'm sorry. War of the Western Deep. I don't know why I want to keep saying Water's Deep. Yeah, it is just that game. War of the Water. I don't know why I want to say Water's Deep. I don't know. Anyways, War of the Western Deep. It's, I don't know. There's not much more to say here. The game looks beautiful, in my opinion. If you like adventure games, if you want something that's story rich, here's some combat here where it kind of goes over the combat system. If you're a fan of that nostalgic feel of Disney's Robin Hood, I strongly recommend heading over to Steam and wishlisting this. All of these games will be linked in the description for the notes on the audio podcast, as well as, Mike, I'm putting it to you now to make sure they make it into the notes on the YouTube side. Make sure you got Steam links for these. So no release date on this one currently, as far as I recall. Let me double check. It is still, yeah, it's just wish listable. So make sure you guys check that game out. The devs worked really hard on it. It looks great. And like I said, there's a webcomic too. So apparently the webcomic's been around for a good long time. And they decided they wanted to turn it into a game, worked with some freelance developers to make it happen. And now we've got this. So check it out. Welcome back, Tim.
Right. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Paul stuck in the door, so
Fucking cats. I was just finishing up War of the Western
kids.
That too. Now let's talk about the single coolest experience I've had at PAX in a long time. Tim and I have been doing coin drop on and off for a long time. We started as a website. We did media for E3 in 2018, which was the same year that they announced Kingdom Come Deliverance.
What the fuck, Rod?
Yep. That classic clip, which does somewhere in the ether still exist.
It's still there.
I did not expect to see Warhorse at PAX. I didn't know they were coming. I didn't look at the exhibitor list that closely, and I was very pleasantly surprised to see them there. And so I went over and played their 20-minute public demo, which was very much a slice of, yeah, this feels like Kingdom Come. Like, if you played the first one, the second one feels right on par with it.
Good.
The combat is so much fucking better, dude. It's not even funny. It's so much better. It's instead of the 5-point star with a sword, you've got like 4 points kind of. So you've got like the top 3, and then they made the bottom one whole point. So it's like 4, but it's so much more fluent. It just works so much better.
Speaks better.
It speaks better. It speaks better. It speaks volumes.
So like that's one of the things. Like you get used to the combat in the first game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you actually get pretty good at it. So I think they were actually going for that in the first game. The whole intent was, you're a blacksmith's son and you don't know shit, and you have to figure out literally all the things, including fighting the sword or whatever that you choose to fight with. And I can see them making it easier this game around because of, without spoiling anything, what happens in the first game. So it would make sense.
A huge part of it was also budget, actually. So I spoke with, this is where things got really cool for me. After playing this, I got a chance to talk to Toby. I'm going to name drop you here, man. It was a blast talking with you. And I talked to him and said, how great I like the first one, how awesome it is, how I'm still working through the first one after years, but enjoying every minute of it, how much of a fan you were. And they offered me, I kind of told him the whole story of like, we used to be media. We're trying to get back to that. And he's like, well, let me see if we have a media opening for you so you can come in and play our media access. I was like, dude, that's very generous of you. You don't have to do that by any means. It was fantastic. They're like, yeah, come back at 3. We'll get you in. We'll do the whole media thing for you. It'll be great. I was like, that's mighty kind of you. I will absolutely be back here. So I got to play an extended demo that was for press only, which it was very cool. It was very humbling. Toby was very kind. He was very happy to be part of our kind of fresh start at the podcast. And, it was a great experience, but the game felt like it was the same game, but like in every avenue better. Like you can tell that this was the game they wanted to make the first time, but they didn't have the budget for, and they were a lot less restricted on their budget for this game. Obviously, there's still budget constraints, but they had so much more availability because of the success of the first game.
Of course they had the experience as well. They've figured out how to make the first game and improve it over the course of time via feedback, everything, and so on and so forth. But then, of course, like you said, bigger budget, more time to work on it, so on and so forth.
So it's weird because I was playing it. I was like, well, this is how it looks. Like, this is just Kingdom Come Deliverance. And then I have to remember, like, almost like how when we played Diablo 2 Resurrected, our brain goes, well, this is how it looked when it released in 2001. Yeah. And then you go play it and you go, oh, yeah, no, it did not look like this. So they did a really good job of staying true to everything artistically that they did with the first game and just making it look better. 1,000-fold.
Awesome.
Inventory system flows better, map operates better, like everything, every step of the way flows and feels better. And they added a feature, which god damn it, more games need to do this. They added an auto follow button that actually works. So when an NPC tells you to meet them somewhere, you can just hit the button and fucking follow them. It's so simple and such a great quality of life addition.
And it follows them at their pace too, I imagine.
It does. It sets them at their. It's so, dude. It was fantastic. So yeah, I can't talk this game up enough. Your combat reticle, your ranges, I guess, are going to be dependent on what weapon you're using. So like, they've also scaled the difficulty in that aspect, where like sword, obviously you're going to be able to have, different attack patterns. If you use a fucking Morning Star, you're probably just hit him on the fucking head, right? Like way more basic.
No matter what you hit him.
Exactly.
The whole point is to pierce it.
So it's they've tailored the combat in a way that, like, if you're not good at the sword, maybe pick up a mace. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Kind of it caters to the play styles as well as the ability of the player. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. It's very cool. They of course did their style of what you'd expect of from these guys, where like this story is insane. The demo I played had multiple different potential outcomes. Me and the other guy I played unfortunately got the same ones. So Toby was like, shit, well, you'll have to take my word for it. There's different ones. I was like, I trust you. I've played Kingdom Come enough to know that.
Yeah.
But there was a situation where we had to steal a guild sword from a fighting school to like challenge them, to like hang it on the wall at the town hall to issue a challenge to this guy we're trying to help establish a fighting school, a swordsmanship school. And if you get caught, you get accused, right? Like if they actually see you, and if you kill somebody, then obviously like shit goes downhill. Like the guy tells you don't. So if during that whole interaction where they're talking to the guy, you don't say anything, they literally kick him out, and then he has to find a new place to stay before you can actually go and talk to him to start that quest line. Because now he's so they've gone even further above and beyond, and this is just one of the many side quests. Like this isn't even main story shit. This is just like, yeah, if you steal the sword and don't get caught, they have to like own that they issued this challenge when they really didn't, and they look a little embarrassed. The downside of getting caught, if you don't kill anybody and you get out of there, they get an advantage in the duel. So they get plate armor and you only have to fight in cloth armor. So there's actual like beyond just like moral consequences, there's in-game consequences to messing stuff up but still achieving your goal ultimately, if that makes sense.
Well, that was one of the beauties of the first game. The first game side quests and everything were so deep and so good that you want to play all of them because they do what you say. Of course, I would imagine they're going to expand upon that in this game.
Oh yes,
but they were so worth your time. The side quests are often just go here, kill that, go there, collect this, like, and they might give you a little bit of reason why you're doing it, but it usually doesn't mean much to the world. And that's one of the beauties of the first game is it really affected a lot of stuff in awesome ways. It has me excited. Toby
also said that this game is where the first game was about Henry and his journey. This is kind of the buddy cop game where now you're a part of, the Knights. And so it's a journey with you and your friends, and you still get to decide what kind of man Henry is. But like, yeah, it's very much involved in the characters from the first game and the friends you made along the way kind of thing, which is really cool. Awesome. I'm super excited for the game, man. It's just, yep. They built it in a way.
I know that the prince is still a major focus in the game.
Yeah, he was in it. Hans, yeah.
Hans, yep.
They built it in a way where if you haven't played the first one, you don't have to. Those of you who have will benefit from like, oh man, he's back or she's back or oh this place or oh that place. So that's really cool. But they built it in a way where you won't have to have played the first one.
So I gotta ask, can you think of a single sequel that requires you to play the first one or the previous one? Like, I honestly, I can't. They're always touted as, it's made it toward newcomers as well as fans can enjoy. And it's like, I mean, I don't even need to say that anymore these days.
Yes. So they're all technically standalone games, but if a new player jumps into Dragon Age Inquisition without playing 1 or 2, they are missing a huge part of the lore of that world. Yes, you can play it, but you're not going to have any understanding of, well, not so much, because if you jump into Mass Effect 2, right, you only miss what affected Commander Shepard, right? Like, Mass Effect 2, you can jump in and just kind of go with. But if you jump into Inquisition, you have no understanding of who the Grey Wardens were, what the Blight was, any of that, right? So, like...
I mean, that's most sequels. You're gonna be left out with a lot of context because you didn't play the game or the game before it. But like, you can still play it and figure it out for the most part. Like, I'm looking at the one that stuck out to me the most. Looking at my games is The Last of Us. You know, you could pick up The Last of Us 2, and you're like, oh shit, they killed Joel, and well, you're on a revenge mission. There you go. But like, you don't know who the fuck he was, and you don't really care because you don't know who he is. You just know that you want to kill the people that killed him.
I've got a great one for you.
What's that?
Jak 2. Without playing Jak 1, the setting of Jak 2 makes no goddamn sense. Like, it's yeah, but you can still play any game. Like, that's not...
Yeah, but I just mean, like, you can play it and enjoy it.
Yeah, but that's any game. But, like, understanding the story is the part that, like, matters.
I want to see a game made that's so deep that if you don't play the first one, they don't let you play the second one. Do you have a save file for the first game? Yeah, no, you can't play our game. Go buy the first one and play and beat it first.
It seems like a bad marketing choice.
It does seem like a bad strategy. But I mean, that would be kind of cool, because it means the developers are actually doing their best to tell a cohesive story. Like, you can't pick up a book and read the second one or third one and know what the fuck's going on.
You know what?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's fair. Like, I'm trying to think back to when I listened to the Game of Thrones series on audiobook, and like, without the context of the first book, does the second book make sense? I don't know. Yeah, that's it. It's a good point.
Anyways, I was just thinking about that statement. That statement's just like, yeah, that's every game.
Yeah,
does that.
You know, I guess that's fair. I've got a couple more games I want to talk on very quickly here. A couple of honorable mentions, because, again, this episode's going to be hugely long. For those of you who don't know of this game, this is a game that was much like Diablo when it first came out 20 years ago, I think. Maybe 24 years ago. Can't remember which. Very long time ago. Fate was a game that was very much like Diablo. It's an action RPG. They've made a bunch of sequels to it. Was a more child-friendly Diablo, I guess you could say. It is actually getting a remake.
19 years.
19 years, thank you. It is getting a remake. So if you like Diablo-style ARPGs, this one's very watered down and very easy to pick up. But if you're a fan of the franchise, good news. The first is getting a remake, and it's pretty fun. I played it. It's definitely Diablo light, but it's enjoyable. There's a basic character creator, male and female hairstyles, name, and you can name your dog. So you've got like a pet dog. But it's a Diablo-like game. It's an ARPG, little dumbed down, much more child friendly. You fight slimes and rats and spiders and dragons, you know.
Yeah, good luck finding it on Google, because there's an anime called Fate/Stay Night and Fate/ all sorts of other stuff, and that's pretty much what pops up.
It's
when you type in Fate game.
Yep. If you go on Steam and search,
you can find it on Steam.
It's called Fate Reawakened. Does not have a release date yet, but that is coming soon. The next one I have is a game that me, Chris, and my buddy Beesky played all together, couch co-op, 4-player couch co-op on a Steam Deck. So
interesting.
Yeah, it's a game that's actually I said this, and this guy heard it a lot. It's a game I do not know how we missed it. It's been out for 9 years. Yep.
Wow.
It's called Barony. BARONY.
I know that name. I know that one.
Yes, it's a pixel art, 3-dimensional roguelike RPG dungeon crawler, 4-player couch co-op, as well as crossplay over Epic, I believe. You can have.
It's got a very Minecraft-y look.
It does, but it is inspired. The actual gameplay, believe it or not, is inspired mostly by Doom. It's a fast-paced, run around, cut shit up, kill it quick. crisp, and it plays well. Like the combat feels crisp and clean. It's very high speed. If you die and you're playing with a party, they can get your loot and then take it with them to the next level. If the whole party makes it to the next level, you revive, they drop the loot, you've got your loot back. If they don't get that loot box, you come back with nothing. So yeah, it's very cool. I came back to the Airbnb and bought it immediately. We still haven't played it yet, but I fully intend to. It looks great. It really does.
Does look like a fun one.
Yep. And my last one, this is actually a friend of a friend's game. So this is a mention for him. Azuv. It's I gotta be honest, he's a developer. So he knows his project. He wasn't the best at conveying the story, the gameplay of his project. He did a great job making the game. It's a card game for the console. It's not a deck builder. It's a literal, like, what you would expect to be a tabletop game. The story there is he intends to make it an actual board game, but it's far easier and cheaper to make a video game than it is to actually make a tabletop game these days. So he built the video game version of the tabletop game he's hoping to make. And it's an interesting project. I've never really seen anything like it. He says, and I have to agree with him here, he has a bone to pick with games like Among Us that say they're, what was it? Social deduction games, right?
Yeah.
He has a bone to pick with them because those are social deception games, right? You always have a traitor. His is actually a social deduction game. You have cards, you have to trade them back and forth. It is a minimum of a 2-player game. It's a co-op game. And the idea is you need to cross this desert to get to this library to return this incredibly cursed tome. And you have to survive 10 days in the desert to do that by working together cooperatively in this social deduction game. The understanding... Go ahead.
The Steam profile says that you have to adventure with friends in a co-op card roguelike. It says manage your resources in an ill-fated save the world road trip. Without direct communication, you must rely on trust and read your friends' minds. Survive 10 days, return the cursed book, and seal the fiend of fortune.
It actually looks
like good reviews.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said it's gotten great reviews, but they haven't gotten a lot of reviews, right? So I told him I'd mention it on the podcast. It looked interesting to me. I might pick it up. I'd be interested in playing it with you, maybe with Chris too. But it's one of those games that, like, it's what I had this funny thought as I was walking out. I was like, you know, it'd be wild if he made this video game. And then when 1.0 releases, his plan is for 1.0 to release alongside of the actual board game when the board game's ready. And then if once the board game's out, he has it ported to Tabletop Simulator.
That'd be cool.
Just like
that'd be cool.
Video game, board game, video game.
I mean, I would imagine that someone, if someone finds out about it, they can just add it to Board Game Simulator. Or there's various other board game simulator games that are titled something else. I can't remember the name, but in any case, someone else could make it happen easily.
Yeah. But yeah, that's been my PAX journey so far. There's more to go tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to be hopefully checking out Pacific Drive. They're there. I'm hopefully checking out Tears of Metal, a game called Conquest of Eldinar, I believe is what it's called. Eldinar. A game. That's
what I'd say.
It's I just briefly saw it, so this was like recon we did Friday. I didn't look too deep into it. Whisper Mountain Outbreak, which looked kind of cool. Edge of Sanity, which is the other game from Daedalic that I wanted to play when I was there, but it didn't open in time for me to play. Stalker 2 is there, and it is a 30-minute playable demo. I got in line and they told me it was going to be 4 hours. So I am beelining it first thing tomorrow to Stalker 2 to get my hands on it, to hopefully play the game that I am the most looking forward to. 2 more big titles there. Monster Hunter Wilds has a playable demo, and PoE 2 is back this year. If I can play all of those, I will be incredibly happy. I will settle for Stalker 2 and the other indies and be perfectly fine. Monster Hunter is going to be great. There's no doubt about that. Chris sat and he wanted to play it, didn't get to play that one, but he did play PoE 2. So he sat and watched people play Monster Hunter Wilds, and he said it was 20 out of 10 will buy. He said he's planning 3 days of PTO for it, I think. Yeah, at least 3 days of PTO when it drops. So if you are a fan of Monster Hunter, you will fucking love it, period. There's no question.
Not surprising.
Yeah. The new weapon mechanics are apparently chef's kiss. So, yeah. That is PAX so far. I will have more to report next week, but we won't make it a whole episode. For those of you, again, who are watching this that I met at PAX, thank you for your time. I had a blast, and I am looking forward to doing it again next year. So with that, let's move into quickfire news. What do you got for us, Tim?
Yeah, so I'm going to start the quickfire with there was a whole bunch of indie news and a Nintendo showcase. They were combined earlier this week, and I did a live stream on my personal, and I was muted the whole time. I knew that there was an issue with my software that tracks my mic and my camera, but I had problems with my camera, and I'm like, fuck it, I'll just direct stream it, and I didn't even think about my mic. So yeah, my bad. If you care to watch the showcase, you can at least hear that. I'll just leave it up as a video of shame. Anyways, so the first bit of news is the Sony games Concord, which is effectively Overwatch style game, and then another game called Dustborn. Those games released over the last week, and they absolutely flopped, about as hard as you can imagine. Dustborn, if I'm not mistaken, sold like less than 5,000 copies. They've had one person that I'm aware of actually beat the game. And Concord has sold roughly 25,000 copies, and they have maybe 150 players a day. And it's probably Sony's worst flop in history. Like it's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah. So next is Rocksteady. The guys behind Batman and Suicide Squad are supposedly working on the next game. We know nothing, but they're working on it. Next one, this is probably the biggest of all of them, is Hideaki Itsuno. He's the creator of Devil May Cry and Dragon's Dogma. He has left Capcom after 30 years, and the going rumor is that he has joined Square Enix for Final Fantasy 17, which the combat director of Devil May Cry actually left Capcom and came to Square Enix for Final Fantasy 16. So this would be an even bigger, like, not necessarily push in the Devil May Cry way, but, that'd be kind of cool. Sad news for the developer Oka Studios. They created and released Visions of Mana just like 3 days ago. NetEase and Tencent have shut them down. It took them less than 24 hours to shut them down. They cited low interest in the Japanese market, but I looked it up, and the Amazon sales have it as the 5th best-selling game on their market, including in US and Japan. Steam has it listed in the top 10 bestsellers on Steam, and the general sentiment is pretty darn high. I was looking at the Metacritic on the PS5 version, and it's sitting at 8.9 for a user score. The critic score is not quite as high, but still. Basically, it sounds to me like scummy business tactics, more or less.
I'd agree.
Next, Sony decided to be they thought Xbox's price increase in Japan was such a great idea. They said, "Hold my beer," and they raised the price of the PS5 in Japan by almost $100. I think it was closer to 90, but still. Although, interestingly enough, it actually caused the PlayStation 5 to sell out in Japan for people trying to buy it before the price increase. So,
wow,
it worked.
Holy shit, that's fucking 4D chess right there.
Yeah, like I guess it worked. I don't know, but see, at the same time, over this last week, the Xbox also was kind of selling out. Now, going from 5 sales to 9 sales isn't very much, but still. MGS3, the remake, is been quoted as a, quote, fanatically faithful remake. So the way I can best understand it is it's the same game, just has better graphics.
Sounds great.
Which we actually did talk about that a couple weeks ago, and I know they did had some new stuff in there, but very little.
Yeah.
Speaking of MGS, Konami has more or less, they have not 100% confirmed this, but they basically confirmed that MGS 4 will be released from its PS3 prison and will be released on the next Metal Gear collection. Again, not 100%, but they basically said it would. They said connect the dots, more or less. Next, Claire Obscure Expedition 33, which I believe was shown off at the Game Awards in December. It got a 7-minute gameplay trailer, or just under 7 minutes, and it looks fantastic. If you have not seen it yet, go look. It looks so freaking good. It's Legend of Dragoon, but modern. I'm so stoked about it. It's not even funny.
I'm trying to remember if it was Game Awards or if it was Summer Game Show. I think it was Game Awards. I think you're right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was announced at like January or December or something like that. I can't remember exactly. More sad news is Bandai Namco, their MMO Blue Protocol, their anime MMO Blue Protocol, apparently did so badly in Japan that they've decided to cancel the game next year for Japanese users and cancel the worldwide release elsewhere. So that sucks, because I was really, really looking forward to it. I would constantly look up to see if there was any news on it, and then that was the news one day. That sucked. Supposedly, the rumor for the PS5 Pro is that it will be announced at a PlayStation State of Play, not a showcase, which they almost always have in September. So this will be a smaller showcase or event. It will be announced September 9th, and we'll see what they do with it. I mean, I think the PlayStation is due for a price drop finally, and this would be a perfect way for the Pro to release at the current price of the PS5 and then drop the price of the other two models. But, predictions are putting it anywhere from $600 to $900. So let's see.
Yeah, the wife said she wants a PS5, so we're waiting to find out what the Pro does.
Yeah, I mean, I think from what we can tell based on the specs, the tech specs that have released time and time again, there's been some ones with higher specs and some with lower specs, but the ones in the middle have been the ones that have quote leaked the most. Mm-hmm. And from what I can tell, it's going to be damn near a 50% increase in performance based on the AI enhancements, the DLSS and stuff like that. But right. I guess we'll see. So I honestly, I don't think there's even a chance in hell that the console is going to be over $600. I think $600 is a possibility, but I don't think it's going to be there. Like, really don't.
Will Tim's record of predicting price points for hardware finally break? We'll find out. We'll find out.
I am honestly a little worried.
We'll find out.
But we'll see. So Suicide Squad, the devs, or a dev from the Suicide Squad team, has quote said, "I wish the Series S never existed. It's been so annoying to optimize for that console." And this is probably the most harsh word we've heard from any developer, but it sort of makes sense when you look at all sorts of games skipping the launch on Xbox and then coming to Xbox later. Larian's Baldur's Gate 3 and many other games. Wukong, one that just released.
Speaking of that, actually, I forgot to mention this. I asked Toby about the comments that the Xbox Series S was held back the development of Kingdom Come Deliverance, the scope. That was misreported. Someone took a quote from the devs and then skewed it to sell it how they wanted to, which, shocker. Basically, wild, right? What? Media skewing things? No.
Right.
So what happened was one of the team was interviewed, and they said, in a roundabout way, the game has been optimized for all systems as best as it can be for those individual systems. How they skewed that to where they got it as like, oh, the Xbox held them back, there's no basis for that. The Xbox Series S did not hold back the scope of Kingdom Come Deliverance at all.
That's good.
So
that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at any other game that's been on all three platforms, and yes, the Series S version is always worse, but you can easily make up for that lesser hardware by just making the resolution worse or making the frame rate worse.
Yeah,
or,
low distance.
Some of the assets.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
Yeah.
Like,
it should.
You can't imagine that it would reduce the scope. Like, I can see features like split screen in Baldur's Gate being a problem.
Yes.
But really, that's about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine there's more to it than that. But yes, like in theory, it's pretty theoretically simple to downscale a game, right?
Yeah. I mean, so speaking of Baldur's Gate, supposedly they believe that all games, or let me not.
Yep. I was going to say
a developer from within Baldur's Gate says that all games should cost more at a base level. And they think that it's possible that GTA 5 could actually raise that price. Now, I highly doubt that's going to happen. I think that's, sorry, Larry, and I think that's stupid speak, but, you know, I mean, the go ahead.
No, I agree with you. Honestly, I think in a world where everything else has inflated so much, inflating games again after just hitting $70 for, let's face it, games that are mostly broken.
Yeah, and nobody liking it. Not a single person.
Yeah. We'll talk about Star Wars Outlaws in a minute. It's not a good look. I can't imagine games being $100 a pop or $90 a pop. I don't pay full price currently. I won't buy a game when it's new unless I am absolutely 100% sure I am going to enjoy the game. I bought Nobody Wants to Die the day it released. Fucking love it. I will buy Kingdom Come 2.
That was also not a $70 game,
right.
though.
It wasn't.
Like, what, 40?
Yeah. It was actually on sale because it was day of sale too. I'll buy Kingdom Come Deliverance the day of. But those are games that, like, there's no doubt, right? There's no question. For every single game to be 70 or above, no.
They're saying more than 70.
Right. You're not wrong. So,
I mean, I've noticed in myself, I'll maybe buy 2 games a year at $70, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
The vast majority of them, I'll wait for a sale. But also that's because I've noticed over the course of the last 15, 20 years, you can just wait a couple of months and most games will drop. I mean, hell, last year when the Avatar game came out, even though it reviewed well and is a damn fun game, it went on sale to like $30 in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So I waited, thankfully. But like that happens so frequently these days that, I mean, why buy anything day one most of the time these days? It just doesn't make sense.
Unless you are certain, right? Like if you're a Call of Duty player, you're probably going to buy Call of Duty day one every time. Yeah. But like, just wait on most games. There's so many other games out there. There's games from literally 25 years ago I still need to play.
Exactly. And so the last bit of news that I have is, you mentioned Star Wars Outlaws. The reviews have been pretty rough. It's sitting at, I think, a 76 on PlayStation, which is the highest reviewed version of the game.
Oof.
And the game's pretty damn broken. I've on Twitter or X, people are sharing clips of their gameplay, and there's just so many bugs. There's so many, from stealth killing people, and then when you stealth them, you're dropping them to the ground, you'll just like randomly float off like 40, 50 feet away, letting all of the other NPCs in the area know that you just stealth killed somebody, to absolutely retarded AI that can't pick you out of a bush 2 pieces of grass wide, even after you killed someone in front of their face and then walked 5 feet back into the grass. They just lose you instantly 4 or 5 times in a row.
That's like early Tenchu shit, dude. Like that's PS1 level AI. That's awful.
Yeah. It's so bad. I've seen people, actually, I don't remember the streamer. Actually, I don't think it was anyone big. I just happened to see it on YouTube. Some dude was running around on a speeder, and he's like, I'm really enjoying this game. Outlaws is actually pretty damn fun. It's actually really well built. And he goes off a ramp, and then as soon as he hits the ground, he falls through the world, and he just goes, oh, maybe not.
Wow.
And like I said, the game is just released way too soon. They didn't do enough playtesting. It's broken, and I fully expect, especially with the reviews, it probably sold well because it's Star Wars.
Yeah, but
I still fully expect it to go on a half decent sale Black Friday. Like, I'm not expecting $30, but I wouldn't be surprised if it hits $40. So
there's one more bit of news about Star Wars Outlaws we should touch on. Those of you who spent $110 on it, you got your 3-day early access. Well, those people had to restart 3 days later when Ubisoft pushed a day one patch and said restart or face game breaking bugs.
Yep.
Sorry, that's rough.
The update they put out was, it didn't break the game, it just didn't make your version of it fixed.
Yep.
You had to start over.
Yeah, that's so awful, dude. That is, I wouldn't like. I almost wonder if there's a lawsuit in there. Like I don't know. Like, it's not necessarily Ubisoft's fault, but like, damn, dude,
when you look at Cyberpunk,
yeah.
When you look at Cyberpunk 2077, they didn't get any sort of lawsuit.
No, but
it's not gonna happen.
2077 also didn't sell early access. and then tell you to turn around and start over. So I don't know, man. Like,
game didn't even play on last gen.
I tried to warn people that it wasn't going to, and I don't think I did a very good job at that, or I wasn't clear enough. I don't know, but yeah, there was no chance that game was going to run on that last gen. Just not a chance. But they didn't sell early access, right? Like when you're selling, I don't know, man. It feels real shady and dirty, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lawsuit. I also wouldn't be surprised if I saw that lawsuit dismissed. So. I don't know.
Are you sure that it didn't have an early access? I don't know. I don't even remember.
No.
Are you sure?
Yep. Yeah. Cyberpunk 2077 did not release an early access version. Not like pay and get an early access like the way.
Yeah, buy a game, buy a bigger version, play it a couple days early. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, not like that. I also don't think they released an early access game, period. But
no, they definitely did not release an early access game. I mean, I guess technically they didn't, but they kind of did, given how many overhauls the game got.
Yeah, it sure looked like it, but yeah. So I don't know, man. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody tries to press a lawsuit against Ubisoft for that. I also wouldn't be surprised if it gets thrown out.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a lawsuit, it's going to be thrown out. As much as I hate to say it, it's so commonplace these days that it's almost rare to see a game launch feature complete and really well optimized. The last one I can think of that was feature complete and optimized was like Stellar Blade, and the game is so fucking fun. Like, as an example, he told you I was sick, and I've been sick, and I'm actually feeling a little bit better right now. I also did take a whole bunch of medicine before recording, and I played the game from somewhere like 10:30 to 7 p.m. today, and just played it just constantly. And oh my god, the game is so much fun. I don't think I've scratched the surface of the game, but still, it's very good.
Nice. All right. Well, does that wrap up our quickfire for tonight?
It does.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening or watching, whatever you're doing, however you're doing it. You being here means the world to us. If you like the show, tell your friends. If you like it a lot, maybe consider heading over to Patreon and donating. It's $3 a month, less than a cup of a coffee. You help support the show, helps us continue to do this, helps us be able to do things back for the community, make donations, make giveaways, do raffles. It helps us to help you. We say it all the time. Tim and I don't expect to get rich off this podcast. I just want to break even, and then I want to give the money back to you guys in fun ways. So, the sooner we can get there, the better. All I want to do is have experiences like I had today with the team of Warhorse, where I get to sit down and talk to people passionate about the project they've spent years of their lives working on, and be able to have those really meaningful conversations with people that produce what we all get to enjoy, and I think sometimes take for granted. So thanks everybody for watching and listening. We're going to head over to Patreon. Tim, hit him with your final thoughts.
I wish I could have been there. You being there definitely has made me a little bit jealous, and hopefully next year I'll be able to, and if not next year, the year after that. But with that said, tell your mom I said hi.
Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you next time.